The air hung thick with secrets, money whispered promises, power demanded silence. A web of deceit, spun in the highest echelons of society. Our journey takes us deep into the heart of corporate India, where a name synonymous with success now finds itself entangled with accusations of breathtaking corruption. Gautam Adani, the tycoon who built an empire on ambition, stands accused of orchestrating a bribery scheme of staggering proportions. But how did this titan of industry fall from grace? What dark secrets lurk beneath the veneer of success? Prepare yourself, for the truth is far more insidious than you could ever imagine. This is Gautam Adani's bribery scandal, unveiling the shadows. Born into a modest family in Ahmedabad, Gautam Adani's ascent to the pinnacle of India's business world is nothing short of meteoric. From humble beginnings as a diamond trader, he displayed an uncanny knack for identifying lucrative opportunities. His empire expanded rapidly, encompassing ports, power plants, and infrastructure projects, transforming the Indian economic landscape. Adani's name became synonymous with ambition, his every move scrutinized and admired. He cultivated an image of a visionary entrepreneur, a self-made billionaire who embodied India's economic aspirations. But behind the gleaming facade of success, a darker truth was beginning to emerge. Whispers of impropriety and allegations of unethical business practices began to circulate, casting a shadow over Adani's empire. The accusations, when they surfaced, were as shocking as they were audacious. A whistleblower cloaked in anonymity came forward with explosive allegations. Gautam Adani was accused of orchestrating a massive bribery scheme, involving high-ranking government officials and influential figures within his own companies. The details, laid bare in a series of leaked documents and confidential emails, painted a damning picture. Millions of dollars allegedly changed hands, funneled through a labyrinthine network of shell companies and offshore accounts. The allegations sent shockwaves through India's political and business elite. Gautam Adani's story begins not in the gleaming towers of Mumbai, but in the bustling streets of Ahmedabad. Born in 1962, he was the third of 8 children in a family of modest means. Young Gautam possessed an ambition that stretched far beyond the confines of his family's textile business. He dropped out of college to pursue his entrepreneurial dreams, starting his journey as a diamond trader in Mumbai in the early 1980s. Adani's sharp business acumen and relentless drive quickly became evident. In 1988 he founded Adani Exports, the flagship company of what would become the Adani Group. Initially focusing on agricultural commodities trading, Adani Exports soon diversified into the import and export of a wide range of products. The Adani Group grew at an astonishing pace, fueled by Adani's relentless pursuit of growth and his ability to secure lucrative government contracts. As Adani's wealth and influence soared, so did the scrutiny surrounding his business practices. Rumors of political connections and allegations of crony capitalism began to circulate. One of the earliest instances of controversy arose in the early 1990s when Adani secured a contract to develop the Mundra port in Gujarat. Environmental activists raised concerns about the potential damage to the fragile coastal ecosystem, while others questioned the transparency of the bidding process. Despite the controversies, Adani pressed ahead, transforming Mundra into one of India's largest and busiest ports. The project's success cemented Adani's reputation as a business titan, but it also fueled accusations of environmental disregard and political maneuvering. The whispers of impropriety grew louder, but Adani remained largely unscathed. Central to Adani's rise to power was his ability to cultivate relationships with influential figures across India's political spectrum. He forged alliances with politicians from various parties, ensuring that his business interests remained protected regardless of who was in power. One of Adani's most significant political alliances was with Narendra Modi, who served as the chief minister of Gujarat from 2001 to 2014. As Modi rose through the ranks, Adani's fortunes also flourished. The Adani Group secured numerous contracts and concessions from the Gujarat government during Modi's tenure, fueling allegations of favoritism and crony capitalism. When Modi became Prime Minister of India in 2014, Adani's influence reached new heights. The Adani Group's expansion plans aligned perfectly with Modi's vision of a new India driven by infrastructure development and economic growth. At the heart of any intricate bribery scheme lies a master manipulator, a shadowy figure who understands the levers of power. In the Adani case, this role allegedly fell to a man known only as Mr. K. Described as a ruthless operator, Mr. K navigated political favors and backroom deals. He moved like a phantom, ensuring transactions remained off the books. His methods were varied and effective. From lavish gifts to outright bribes, Mr. K exploited weaknesses to get what he wanted. Despite his pivotal role, very little is known about Mr. K's true identity. Some speculate he was a former government official. Whoever he was, Mr. K was a formidable force, a puppet master pulling the strings. While Mr. K orchestrated the bribery scheme from the shadows, it was through a network of corrupt officials within various government agencies that the illicit funds flowed and Adani's influence permeated. These individuals, driven by greed and ambition, became willing conduits for Adani's corrupt practices, betraying their positions of trust for personal gain. One such alleged conduit was Rajesh Gupta, a high-ranking official within the Ministry of Energy. Gupta, responsible for awarding lucrative power generation contracts, allegedly received millions of dollars in bribes from Adani in exchange for rigging bids and ensuring favorable outcomes for the Adani Group. Then there was Amit Shah, a senior bureaucrat in the Ministry of Environment and Forests. Shah, responsible for granting environmental clearances for infrastructure projects, allegedly turned a blind eye to the Adani Group's blatant violations of environmental regulations in exchange for hefty bribes and other favors. At the apex of this intricate web of corruption stood Gautam Adani, the primary beneficiary of the alleged bribery scheme. While he maintained a carefully crafted public image of a self-made entrepreneur and a champion of Indian progress, behind the facade, Adani was allegedly pulling the strings, orchestrating a vast network of bribery and influence peddling to further his own ambitions and amass unimaginable wealth. The alleged scheme, spanning over a decade, allowed Adani to secure lucrative government contracts, stifle competition, and amass a staggering fortune. His companies, fueled by these ill-gotten gains, expanded at an unprecedented pace, acquiring assets, securing monopolies, and dominating key sectors of the Indian economy. Despite the mounting accusations and the growing scrutiny, Adani remained defiant, dismissing the allegations as baseless and politically motivated. He continued to cultivate his image as a visionary leader and a patriot, using his wealth and influence to silence dissent and project an aura of invincibility. The elaborate edifice of Adani's alleged bribery scheme, built on a foundation of secrecy and intimidation, began to crumble with the emergence of a lone whistleblower. Driven by a sense of justice and a desire to expose the truth, this individual, whose identity remains a closely guarded secret, dared to challenge one of India's most powerful men. Working from within the Adani Group, the whistleblower had access to a trove of confidential documents, emails, and financial records that expose the inner workings of the alleged scheme. These documents, meticulously compiled and leaked to investigative journalists and anti-corruption authorities, revealed a pattern of systematic bribery, money laundering, and abuse of power. The whistleblower's revelations sent shockwaves through India's corporate and political landscape. The media, initially hesitant to challenge Adani's immense power and influence, began to investigate the claims, uncovering further evidence of wrongdoing and corruption. The whistleblower's actions came at a great personal risk. The seeds of Gautam Adani's alleged bribery scheme were sown in the very foundations of his empire. From the outset, Adani displayed a ruthless ambition and a willingness to bend the rules to achieve his goals. The Mundra port project, a cornerstone of his early success, became a breeding ground for corrupt practices. To secure the necessary land for the port's expansion, Adani allegedly used a combination of political pressure, intimidation tactics, and dubious land acquisition deals. Farmers were forced to relinquish their land at below-market rates, often under the threat of legal action or violence. Environmental regulations were flouted, with devastating consequences for the local ecosystem. As the port grew, so did Adani's appetite for power and influence. The Adani Group's empire grew rapidly, fueled by a hunger for growth and corrupt practices. Bribes flowed freely, influencing policy and ensuring favorable outcomes. The Adani Group's influence spread across India. As Adani's empire grew, so did the whispers of dissent. Journalists, activists, and opposition politicians, alarmed by Adani's influence and corruption, began to investigate. They faced an uphill battle. Adani, with his wealth and connections, had the power to silence critics and suppress negative press. The turning point came with the emergence of the whistleblower. Their inside knowledge, coupled with the mounting evidence gathered by journalists and activists, painted a damning picture of systematic corruption and abuse of power. The allegations were too serious to ignore. Law enforcement agencies, under pressure from the media and the public, were forced to take notice. Investigations were launched, raids were conducted, and arrests were made. The net was closing in on Adani and his network of enablers. The scandal sent shockwaves through India's political and business elite. Politicians who had once courted Adani's favor distanced themselves, eager to avoid being tainted by the scandal. Business partners, fearing reputational damage, severed ties. Gautam Adani, the man who had seemed invincible, found himself facing an unprecedented crisis. His empire, built on a foundation of corruption and deceit, was crumbling around him. The question was no longer whether he would be held accountable, but when. Untangling the intricate web of financial transactions at the heart of the Adani bribery scandal was a daunting task. Investigators traced the money through shell companies, offshore accounts, and dubious investments. Their pursuit led them across continents, from Dubai and Singapore to Switzerland and the Cayman Islands. Each layer revealed new deception, obfuscating the origins and destinations of vast sums of money. Millions were siphoned off through inflated invoices and fraudulent contracts into offshore entities. Funds were laundered through real estate, art, and obscure businesses, returning as legitimate income. The scheme was sophisticated, meticulously planned, and executed over many years. It was a testament to the audacity of those involved and their lengths to conceal illicit activities. As the investigation gained momentum, Adani and his co-conspirators went into damage control mode, their priority to silence threats and erase any trace of wrongdoing. High-priced lawyers were assembled to stonewall investigators and intimidate witnesses. They bombarded the media with denials and launched a smear campaign against the whistleblower. Within the Adani Group, a frantic effort was underway to scrub incriminating evidence. Hard drives were wiped clean, documents shredded, and files disappeared. Employees were threatened with termination if they cooperated with authorities. Complicit employees were offered hush money or threatened with dire consequences. Fear and intimidation became the tools to protect Adani's crumbling empire. The Adani bribery scandal was not just a story of corporate greed and political corruption, it was a story about the human cost of unchecked power and the lengths to which some would go to protect their wealth and influence. Journalists faced relentless harassment, intimidation, and legal threats. Some fled their homes, fearing for their safety. Others saw their careers destroyed. Activists were branded as anti-national. They faced police brutality and fabricated charges. Their families lived in fear. The whistleblower was forced into hiding. Their life was irrevocably changed. The Gautam Adani bribery scandal stands as a stark reminder that even the most powerful empires can crumble under the weight of their own corruption. The scandal sent shockwaves through India's political and business landscape, exposing deep-rooted corruption and the devastating consequences of unchecked greed. Gautam Adani's legacy, once synonymous with ambition and success, is now irrevocably tarnished. The allegations have cast a long shadow over his empire, raising serious questions about the true cost of his meteoric rise. This is Oblivion Unlocked, where we delve into the darkest corners of the world, unveiling hidden truths. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest investigations. Together, let's shine a light on the shadows and demand a world where justice prevails.